Water dripped behind him. Curious, he looked. She stopped wringing out her hair and hugged her arms to her chest, lost in thought. He held a hand out to her in invitation. "Perdie?" Her eyes were dark and unfathomable when she met his. She didn't take his hand. Arms still locked around her body, she joined him between two of the pillars. It was almost enough. At least, it would have been if he'd felt at liberty to draw her into his arms. He held himself still and waited. She dropped her arms from around her bodice, exposing the way the fabric clung to her, turning her skin rosy with the colour. By will alone, he didn't look away from her face, even though the way the fabric plastered to her fair skin called to him. His hand lingered by her ear, something he didn't realise until she reached up to cup her hand over his. Her fingers were cold and damp, but soft. She said something, but it escaped him. Thaddeus could barely hear his words over the patter of rain. Perdie moved closer to him, lifted herself onto her tiptoes, and pressed her mouth to his. Thaddeus's world shifted, and for a precious moment he forgot how to breathe. Her kiss was as light as the flutter of a bird's wing. It left him hungrier than ever, but he held himself perfectly still, pliant for her. In a moment, as she drew away to readjust her position, he was rewarded for his patience. She cupped both sides of his face with her hands, pressed her body flush against his, and kissed him again. Boldly, hungrily, with so much passion, he held fast to her, for fear that the moment would slip away. "I have wanted to do that," she whispered against his mouth. "I dreamed of kissing you, Thaddeus. Almost every night." He did not have the willpower to let her go. The awareness shocked him, even as he slid deeper into desire. Wanting to preserve her virtue, he tried to lift his head. Her hands tightened around his neck, and she bit into his bottom lip. "Perdie," he said against her mouth. "We." She gripped a fistful of his hair and dragged his lips back to hers. "I should not feel like this about you," she whispered, her voice hoarse with arousal and an emotion he could not place. "I crave you." That was it. He was lost. Thaddeus had truly believed his curiosity would be appeased with a kiss. He'd been sure, once he knew what Perdie tasted like, he would be able to walk away and take the memory with him. Instead, her taste enslaved him, and cupping her cheeks in his hands, he tilted her head and kissed her over and over. It was magnificent, and if he had his way, it would never end.